So right now we're going to review an introduction in APA style. It's the same as the prose writing, at least, is the same as MLA, the how you should write the elements within the actual writing itself. Do note that if you're using APA in-text citations, you use the year and you use the comma. So like KERP, comma, 2014. We know that that is not what you do in MLA. You use the last name of the author, just like you do here, but there's no need for a comma and you just put the page number. So it would look like this if you were using MLA. You would not put P period or anything. Now, when you do see the page number in APA, so let's say we know this is 2014, but let's say you also saw a comma P3, that means that you are either studying one source and you want to point out the page numbers because you're doing critical analysis of one source, or you used a quote. Anytime you quote in APA, you do include the page number if one is available. Okay, I digress. So, as we know, in a good background, a good introduction, you have a hook. You do your hook. All right, so let's check out my paper here. Only about half of students who began a 4-year degree and 1/3 who began a 2-year degree finish their programs. That's my hook. That's a big hook. You're in college. You should care about this statistic. This is not me making up a statistic. This is huge. So, yeah, that's a big deal. Okay, so my thesis, we should be looking for to hit the pavement here any moment, but as you see, I go, the American Institute for Research calculates the annual lost earnings and taxes associated with these failures to complete degrees at $4.5 billion. So as you see, this is not me. That is KERP 2014. That is a source that said that. Non-traditional students, so what we're doing here is we're trying to find my thesis, but in doing that, we have to make sure that it's me talking. My reader then will be reading this and looking at my in-text citations to understand when I'm not talking. And so far, I'm not talking. This is other people's information that I'm introducing. Non-traditional students, who comprise 73% of all higher education students, account for most non-graduates. Colleges are accused of failing to support the influx of non-traditional students in effective ways. That's somebody else talking. Now, as you know from the rules of this class, whenever I have a quick fact, 73%, it's okay not to provide credentials and introduce the author. These are all facts. $4.5 billion, 73%, right? Those aren't opinions. However, these colleges are accused of failing. If I was doing this right, I should have introduced the publisher or the author of this report, Time is the Enemy, and given this organization, clearly it's a biased nonprofit, some credentials. Why? It's not really enough for me to write this. So I did this wrong. This is my actual graduate school thesis paper. It's published. It's out there. So, oops. Anyway, so to consider the needs of non-traditional students who must consider the needs of first generation. Now you might be noticing this little 1 and this little 2 right here. You can do this too if you want. I didn't want to have to define everything in my research. Most people don't know if I'm writing for a novice population, which I was, how non-traditional is defined or how first generation is defined. So I actually did a footnote in here, which means just at the bottom of the page. So if you look at the number 1, non-traditional students, and you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you'll see the definition and the source of that definition here. So I'm saying this is my definition that I'm using based on this source. Other people might define this different, but this is how this paper will understand it. You can do this as well. Add these things to your paper. Now this is really cool what I'm about to show you, and I'm going to do a bit of a digression again here. If you go to the top of your screen in a Word document, you'll see a tiny arrow with a drop down, like a little arrow right here at the top. If you click it, you can click More Commands. It'll bring you to this page. From this page, change the drop-down menu to All Commands. This is every single command in Word that you cannot find, but sometimes you want to know how to do. From here, if you scroll down to footer or footnote, so footnotes at the bottom of a page and endnotes at the end of the paper. So you can choose either endnote or footnote. So let's say I want footnote. If you double click it and then press OK, the footnote function will appear on your magic list of quick functions at the top. You can add functions, get rid of them, customize your toolbar. I never search through all this business. Look at all this business Word came up with. I don't got time for that. I just go right to all commands when I want to do something. Okay, so what did I do? Okay, so we're still searching for my thesis. As you see, if we're going quickly, if we don't want to read the whole thing, it is a lot of citations. Now, we see a sentence here that says, therefore, the conversation concerning the future of the entire educational industry focuses on these groups. That doesn't seem like the thesis. It just seems like an analysis of the prior sources. As of 2008, LIFG students were 4 times more likely to quit college after the first year than those without LIFG status. Okay, I'm just talking more, and I'm citing a source here. This is not me. If I go down, we see I'm just citing more sources here with the in-text citations and the introductions. So we go down, we see more sources. So my thesis is quite buried in here. This is pretty common in educational works. I want your thesis statements near the top. We go down. Ta-da! So when we stop seeing in-text citations, if we're reading this really quickly, we're probably to the author's main point. So I will just pause this here. You can read it if you want. But in diving into your introductions then, I expect a hook, some pretty hefty background, and your thesis. I would like your thesis before your background, but if you want to do it like I did here, I wouldn't fault you for it. I just think as beginning writers, it's better to put it up front. Notice my background information here. There's a lot of background information I dive into. This is what a master's degree graduate background information paper, those words weren't in the right order, looks like. So know that, but you're doing undergraduate work at this point. You still need pretty hefty stuff. In the next paper, oh, also in that last section there, I did go into my thesis and my claims, my working claims. So everything in a good introduction, what should be in a good introduction, is located in the example we just went over. So in the next video, we're going to go over good CSE sections from student papers for paper 5. And I want to point out what the students were doing right.